Okay guys, let's make a start with IELTS listening module, and today we are going to solve one complete test together. This is the latest IELTS test as per the latest IELTS test pattern. The pattern you guys are going to practice here, you are more likely to get same type of pattern in actual exam. Remember one thing, there are 17 Cambridge IELTS books. In actual exam, nothing will come from these books. No part from listening, no part from reading. Yes, from speaking, they may give something because the topics are similar. So from speaking, there can be something. And for writing also, they'll not give any topic from here. So this is just the pattern you are preparing, right? In actual exam, they have a different test, but that test will follow the same pattern. It's going to be something similar. Okay, but don't expect that from these books something will come and then I'll just do it and all that. Okay, let's take a start. Listening part 1. In part 1 there'll be 10 questions and the level of difficulty is very, very basic. I mean, the first 4 or 5 questions are very simple and easy to answer. There is no problem at all. And by the way, those who are looking for a handsome or good bench score that starts from 6.5 to 7, 8 or even above, they should focus part 1 and part 4 to get 20 by 20 here, because part 1 is one word only. Part 4 is also one word only. So in part 1 and 4, you have to be careful about your spelling also. If your spelling is wrong, your answer is wrong. Okay, so part 1 and 4, and yes, part 3 can be a little tricky and part 2 can be a little tricky, but part 1 and 4 can give you even the full marks as well. Okay, let's start with this test. Complete the notes below. This sentence will always tell you about the type of questions you are doing, and the question type is complete the notes below. Next, write one word only, no number, nothing else. One word only for an answer. Notes completion and one word only. Now, after this, you need to read the title. What's the title? Opportunities for voluntary work in Southo village. It's the name of the village. So there are some opportunities for voluntary work. Voluntary work means unpaid work. Unpaid job. For example, if they ask you to clean the park or to clean the garden, it's a voluntary work where you are not paid for it. Like in our country also, we've got so many activities which are the part of voluntary work. Okay, so they have opportunities for work in Southo village, and there are 3 places. One is library, second is lunch club, and third is help for individuals needed next week. So these are 3 categories, okay? In actual exam, they will give you half minute to read questions 1 to 7, and then they will give you more time to read questions 8 to 10. So they divide it into 2 parts, sometimes 1 to 5, 6 to 10, sometimes 1 to 4, 6 to 10, sometimes 1 to 7, 8 to 10. It depends, okay? They will break it in 2 parts and they'll give you some time to read the questions. Now, most important part is to read and understand the question. If you read and you don't understand the question, you will not find the answer. So reading and understanding the question is 60-70%, and then listening to the audio and finding the answer from the audio. Question number 1, help with dash books. Now something related to the books, and you know category is library. It means they need a volunteer. And the volunteer is going to help with dash books, times to be arranged. So what is it that the volunteer is going to do with the books? That will be your answer. Now I play the audio, listen carefully, the audio will start, and you just have to wait for we need help with dash of the books or something related to that, okay? So let's see.
Part 1. You will hear a man asking about voluntary work in the village that he has just moved to.
Hello, Jane Fairbanks speaking.
Oh, good morning. My name's Frank Pritchard. I've just retired and moved to Southo. I'd like to become a volunteer, and I gather you coordinate voluntary work in the village?
That's right.
What sort of thing could I do?
Well, we need help with the village library. We borrow books from the town library, and individuals also donate them. So, one thing you could do is get involved in collecting them. If you've got a car, that is.
Yes, that's no problem.
The times are pretty flexible, so we can arrange it to suit you.
So, collecting. And have you noticed one thing? For books, they use the word them. First, they use the word books, and then they said you can help them collecting them. So, them goes back to books. So, this is what we call referencing. In actual exam, they will not play the audio one by one. In actual exam, they will not repeat the audio. Audio will be played once only. I'm going to repeat it. Now, this time, focus when they say the word collecting them.
Part 1. You will hear a man asking about voluntary work in the village that he has just moved to.
Hello, Jane Fairbanks speaking.
Oh, good morning. My name's Frank Pritchard. I've just retired and moved to Southo. I'd like to become a volunteer, and I gather you coordinate voluntary work in the village?
That's right.
What sort of thing could I do?
Well, we need help with the village library. We borrow books from the town library, and individuals also donate them. So, one thing you could do is get involved in collecting them.
One thing you could do is get involved in collecting them. We borrow books and this and that. So one thing you can do means help with and collecting, and then books is already written. So the answer is collecting. Now you should write collecting with proper ing. If you write only collect, grammatically it's wrong and your answer is wrong. So by the way, you don't have to modify the words. As they speak the words in the audio, just write them down. Okay? Let's go on. Question number 2. Help needed to keep dash of books up to date. Now again, think about a library. In the library, they need to keep something up to date. Guess? Keep computer up to date? No. Yeah, keep records up to date or keep something up to date. Now, what is it that they have to keep up to date? Please focus.
Oh, another thing is the records that we keep of the books we're given, and those we borrow and need to return to the town library. It would be very useful to have another person to help keep them up to date.
Right. I'm used to working on a...
Again, they use the word them. Keep them up to date, and them goes back to records. Okay, this is called referencing. First they use the noun and then they use pronoun for that noun. So instead of books or instead of records, now they use keep them up to date. So the answer is records. I'm playing it again. Please listen. Again, warning, in actual exam, they will not play the audio second time. They will not play the audio one by one. I'm doing it because I'm teaching you.
Oh, another thing is the records that we keep of the books we're given, and those we borrow and need to return to the town library. It would be very useful to have another person to help keep them up to date.
Right. I'm used to working on a computer. I presume they're computerized?
Oh, yes.
All right. So sometimes listening starts with the tricky questions and you have to be ready for that. Okay. Let's go on. Question number 3. Library is in the dash room, and for room R is capital. It means it's going to be the name of the room. For example, the library is in the red room. Like upstairs we have red room, orange room, or it can be the name of the room. Okay. So let's see what name is that.
Is the library purpose-built? I haven't noticed it when I've walked around the village.
No, we simply have the use of a room in the village hall. The West Room. It's on the left as you go in.
Oh, I must go and have a look inside the hall.
Yes, it's a nice building.
Okay. West room. So will you write West or will you write the West? Because the is already written. Number 1. Number 2, it's One word only. So never write any extra word with that. Correct answer is west. Listen to it again.
Is the library purpose-built? I haven't noticed it when I've walked around the village.
No, we simply have the use of a room in the village hall. The West Room. It's
Okay.
on...
The west room. So west is the right answer. Let's go on. Next they have a lunch club. Now for lunch club, question number 4, help by providing. Now there is something he is going to provide. Help by providing. For providing they might use the word giving, rendering, offering or anything like that.
Do you run a lunch club in the village for elderly people? I know a lot of places do.
Yes, we have a very successful club.
I could help with transport, if that's of any use.
Oh, definitely. People come to the club from neighbouring villages, and we're always in need of more drivers.
Okay, I could help with transport. Now, I could help with transport means help by providing. Transport is the right answer. All good? All clear? Okay, let's move on. Question number 5. Help with hobbies such as. Very simple. Answer is going to be a hobby. Right? For such as, they can say, for example, and then they will name that hobby. So answer is going to be a hobby.
And does the club have groups that focus on a particular hobby too? I could get involved in one or two, particularly if there are any art groups.
Excellent. I'll find out where we need help and get back to you.
Fine.
Art. Yeah. See, especially art group. Excellent. So the correct answer for question number 5 is art. And remember, art and arts both are two different things. Right? You just need to write singular one. Okay, let's go on. Help for individuals needed next week. Now, it's going to be individual help and they need that individual help next week. Let's see what that is. Taking Mrs. Carroll to. Now, Mrs. Carroll can be an old lady and they're going to take her to some place. Right? Hospital, or it can be medical center or a park or anywhere, restaurant, or even maybe there is a birthday party she wants to attend. So taking Mrs. Carroll to. Now again, you understand? It's all voluntary work and you have to take a lady to somewhere and all that. So let's see.
What about help for individual residents? Do you arrange that at all?
Yes, we do it as a one-off. Oh, in fact, there's Mrs. Carroll. She needs a lift to the hospital next week, and we're struggling to find someone.
When's her appointment?
On Tuesday. It would take the whole morning.
I could do that.
Oh, that would be great. Thank
All
you.
right, I could do that. That would be great. So taking Mrs. Carroll to hospital. That is the right answer. Got it? Okay, very good. So you should get 10 by 10 in part 1 and part 4 and even part 2 and 3. I'll give you more tips for that. Let's go on. Question number 7, last question of this series. Work in the dash at Mrs. Salisbury's house. Now in the house, they have to do something, work somewhere. So it can be work in the kitchen, कि बेचारी को खिचड़ी पका के दिया, okay, or anything like that, right? So work in the dash at Mrs. Salisbury's house. It's going to be the part of house.
And also next week, we're arranging to have some work done to Mr. Salisbury's house before he moves, as he isn't healthy enough to do it himself. We've got some people to decorate his kitchen, but if you could do some weeding in his garden, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'd enjoy that. And presumably the day and time are flexible.
Oh yes, just say when would suit you best and we'll let Mr. Salisbury know.
Okay, just give me your answer when the audio stops, not before that. Okay, don't give me the answer when it comes. When the audio stops, then give me the answer. So what's the answer? Why not kitchen? They already have someone to work for kitchen. So they need this person for garden. Listen again.
And also next week, we're arranging to have some work done to Mr. Salisbury's house before he moves, as he isn't healthy enough to do it himself. We've got some people to decorate his kitchen, but if you could do some weeding in his garden...
Okay, if you could do some weeding in his garden, so that is work in the garden at Mr. Salisbury's house. Got it? Garden is the right answer. Okay, thank you. Well, let's move on. Questions 8 to 10. Over here, we've got this complete the table below. Again, this sentence tells you that the question type is table completion. Write one word only for each answer. So mainly in part 1 and part 4, you get one word only. Let's see. In the table, there are 4 columns. The first column is about date, and there is no question over there. But listen, this column will help you track the audio. When in the audio they say on 19th October, they are here. When in the audio they say on 31st December. So use this to track the audio. It is very important that where you are and where the audio is, both things should go side by side. If you are ahead of the audio or if you are behind the audio, you will never find anything. That is going to be very, very confusing. Anyways, then there is one question in event. And you can see below that dance and New Year's party. It means it's going to be an event like that. Got it? Then in location, there is no question. So you don't need to worry about it. And then help needed, question number 9 and question number 10. And you can see above question number 9, they've mentioned providing refreshments. So for question number 9, it can be checking something. Question number 10, designing something. Right? Now, let's move on to question number 8. It's going to be the name of the event which will be held on 19th October. Okay? And do tell me your answer when audio stops. Right? Let's take a start. Let's make a start actually.
The volunteers group also organises monthly social events, which is a great way to meet other people, of course.
Uh-huh.
So next month, on the 19th of October, we're holding a quiz. A couple of residents are great at planning unusual ones, and we always fill the village hall.
That sounds like fun. Can I do anything to help?
Well, because of the number of people, we need plenty of refreshments for halfway through. So if you could provide any, we'd be grateful.
I'm sure I could.
Right.
I'll think about what to make and let you know.
You just need to go on with
Thank
the audio.
you.
It's not that after question number 8 you jump to question number 9. You have 2 hands. One hand to write your answer, one hand to follow the audio. This hand will follow the audio, this hand will write the answer. So what's the answer? Quiz, that's right. Q-U-I-S. Z. Okay, very good. Very good. Now, question number 9 is about checking something. For checking, they may use any other word. So there is something they need to check. I play the audio now.
Then on November the 18th, we're holding a dance, also in the village hall. We've booked a band that specialises in music of the 1930s. They've been before, and we've had a lot of requests to bring them back.
I'm not really a dancer, but I'd like to do something to help.
Well, we sell tickets in advance, and having an extra person to check them at the door as people arrive would be good. It can be quite a bottleneck if everyone arrives at once.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
So, yeah, we sell tickets in advance and someone to check them. Third answer with them. Notice that for books and all that, this is a very good example of referencing. Students usually don't find it. They say, okay, they didn't use the word tickets. Instead of tickets, they use the word them. Please focus again. I'm playing this one.
Then on November the 18th, we're holding a dance, also in the village hall. We've booked a band that specialises in music of the 1930s. They've been before, and we've had a lot of requests to bring them back.
I'm not really a dancer, but I'd like to do something to help.
Well, we sell tickets in advance, and having an extra person to check them at the door as...
Having an extra person to check them at the door. Check them means checking Tickets. Okay, very good. Let's go on. Question number 10. Designing something. Now, answer will come in the latter part. For example, 31st December, New Year's Eve, Mountain Hotel. After Mountford Hotel. After Mountford Hotel, whatever they say, there your answer will come.
We're also arranging a New Year's Eve party. We're expecting that to be a really big event. So instead of the village hall, it'll be held in the Mountford Hotel.
The
Mountford. Mountfort Hotel. It isn't in Southo itself, but it's only a couple of miles away. The hotel will be providing dinner and we've booked a band.
Okay, so what is the answer? आया ही नहीं यही देखना था यही चेक करना था बच्चा कुछ लिख रहा था okay you have to wait patiently for the answer to come right yeah let's go on.
One thing we haven't got yet is a poster. That isn't something you could do by any chance, is it?
Well, actually, yes. Before I retired, I was a graphic designer, so that's right up my street.
Oh, perfect. I'll give you the details, and then perhaps you could send me a draft?
Of course.
All right, designing the poster. Exactly, poster is the right answer, okay? Okay, multiple choice in listening part 2 is a very common question type. And I'm going to tell you how to deal with this common question type. In part 2 of IELTS listening, 4 type of questions are very important. Most important, multiple choice, where out of 3 you have to select 1. Second most important is multiple choice, where out of 5 you have to select 2. And the third most important is matching. And the fourth one is maps. Okay, so these are the 4 important question types. Now, whenever there is multiple choice questions, they check your ability that you understand the right thing from mixed information. Like for example, if I say I'll give you one of these 3 things. First I talk about pencil, then I talk about this ball pen, then I talk about bottle. So you have to listen carefully, right? For example, if I say, well, first of all, I wanted to give you this pencil, but actually this pencil was gifted to me by my mother, so I don't want to give it to you. Then I thought of a pen, and I bought this red pen for you, but unfortunately it doesn't work properly. That is why I've decided to give you this water bottle. Answer is water bottle. So they will talk about all the things. It's not that they say pencil, you say answer. Okay, they say ballpoint, you say answer. Okay, so you have to listen and check whether that is the right thing or not. They will discuss all 3 options. For the most part, mostly they discuss all 3 options. Sometimes they leave out one option. And when I went back to Cambridge IELTS book 7 and 8, there they do another different thing. They don't discuss 2 wrong options. They only discuss 1 right option. Okay, so they may discuss all 3 options. They may leave out 1 option and discuss 2, right? And they may discuss all 3 options. And one more thing, they will not discuss about these options in the same order, A, B, C. No, it can be C, B, A. It can be CAB, it can be BAC, it can be ACB. So first you need to pick up that option, right? They will talk about it and then you need to decide, is that the right answer or wrong? If it is the right one, tick. If it is the wrong one, cross. Elimination is the best way to deal with multiple choice questions. What is elimination? Wrong answer should be out. ABC, C can never be the answer. Right, now you are left with A and B. So I tell you practically, don't worry. So we've got this Onton Hall. Now Oniton or whatever they pronounce in the audio, don't worry. If there are unusual words, don't try to read them. Onton Hall, many past owners made changes too. Now made changes means they refurbished or they altered or they changed. Now there are 3 things: gardens, house, farm. Have you noticed one thing? I'm not reading it like A, the gardens, B, the house, C, the farm. Okay. All right. When garden and house, then farm. Just read the main word. It is gardens, house, farm. Now what's the question? The question is past owners made changes. If they, for example, if they say, although there was few small changes, but the gardens remained same. Gardens is not the right answer. If they say nobody decided or nobody ever thought of doing any sort of change to the house, it is as it was 200 years ago. It means they did not change anything. Answer is past owners made changes to. So where they made changes, if they made changes to gardens, garden is the answer. If they made changes to house, house is the answer. Otherwise, farm. Now let's see question number 11.
You will hear a guide at a tourist attraction called Oniton Hall talking to a group of visitors.
Good morning and welcome to Oniton Hall, one of the largest estates in the area. My name's Nick and I'm one of the guides. I'll give you a brief introduction to the estate while you're sitting down and then we'll walk round. The estate consists of the house, gardens, parkland and farm, and it dates back to the 14th century. The original house was replaced in the late 17th century, and of course it has had a large number of owners. Almost all of them have left their mark, generally by adding new rooms, like the ballroom and conservatory, or by demolishing others. The farm looks much as it's always done, although the current owner has done a great deal of work to the flower beds.
House? No. Gardens? No. Farm? No. Correct answer is house. I play it again. Now please focus. This time I'll stop the audio. Focus.
You will hear a guide at a tourist attraction called Oniton Hall talking to a group of visitors.
Good morning
Now
and
listen.
welcome to Oniton Hall, one of the largest estates in the area. My name's Nick and I'm one of the guides. I'll give you a brief introduction to the estate while you're sitting down and then we'll walk round. The estate consists of the house, gardens, parkland and farm, and it dates back to the 14th century. The original house was replaced in the late 17th century, and of course it has had a large number of owners. Almost all of them have left their mark.
Almost all of them have left their mark. They are talking about houses. Now what is that mark? Mark means अपनी निशानी छोड़ के गए.
Generally by adding new rooms.
By adding new rooms. So many past owners made changes to house by adding new rooms. Listen on.
Conservatory, or by demolishing others.
By demolishing others. So actually it's the house where past owners made changes to. And let's go on.
The farm looks much as it's always done, although the current owner has done a great deal of work to the flower beds.
The farm looks as it always does and all that. So they didn't do any change to the farm. They did all these changes to house by adding some new rooms and by demolishing. So correct answer is B. On your answer sheet, you will not write house. If you write house, your answer is wrong. You will write B. Let's go on. Question number 12. Sir Edward Downes built Oniton Hall because he wanted. Now, what do they mean by he? Edward Downes. Now, Edward Downes wanted something and that is why he built Oniton Hall. Now, can you see a place for, a place for, a place to? These words are repeated. Just see, option is discussing politics. He built a house because he wanted to discuss politics. Option B, display his wealth. You know, sometimes you just display your wealth. You see, I आपको ड्राइंग रूम में लेके जाते हैं, वहाँ 2 लाख की LCD लगाई है. Okay, something like that. ये जनरेटर हमने पिछले हफ्ते लगवाया है. इसके अंदर होंडा का इंजन लगा हुआ है. Okay, something like that. So, anyways, display his wealth and artists and writers. So, Edward Downes built Oniton Hall because Now why? There are three reasons. Reason number one, discuss politics. Reason number two, display wealth. Reason number three, artists and writers could come and sit there and all that. Now let's see what's the purpose.
In the 17th century, the estate was owned by a very wealthy man called Sir Edward Downes. His intention was to escape from the world of politics after years as an active politician, and to build a new house worthy of his big collection of books, paintings and sculptures. He broke off contact with his former political allies and hosted meetings of creative and literary people, like painters and poets. Unusually for his time, he didn't care whether his guests were rich or poor, as long as they had talent.
Okay. C, well done. Place for artists. Now discussing politics? No. He left politics. Right? He disconnected with politics. So A can never be the answer. And B, place to display his wealth? No. He didn't care whether someone was rich or poor. So it's not even B. Correct answer is C. Well done. Let's go on. Question number 13. Visitors can learn about the work of servants in the past from. Now, from where visitors can learn the work of servants? Like, what is it that the servants did? So, from which part of the house? For example, if they say, like, there are paintings, and from the these paintings were made by servants, something like that. So, visitors can learn about the work of servants in the past from A, audio guides. Audio guides are like audio tours. Welcome to Sea Life Center. In this audio tour, I'm going to tell you about this center. This is called audio tour. Next, photographs. And C is people in costume. So visitors can learn about the work of servants in the past from. Okay, now for example, if they say the audio guides were recently made. So it's not the audio guides from where you can learn about the past. If they say the photographs date back 200 years, or the photographs are from 17th century and they tell you about past life and all that. So it's going to be one of these three things. Now please listen.
Big houses like Oniton had dozens of servants until the 1920s or 30s, and we've tried to show what their working lives were like. Photographs, of course, don't give much of an idea. So instead, as you go round the house, you'll see volunteers dressed up as 19th century servants going about their work. They'll explain what they're doing and tell you their recipes or what tools they're using. We've just introduced this feature to replace the audio guide we used to have available.
C, people in costume. And about photographs, what did he say? Let's listen to it again.
Big houses like Oniton had dozens of servants until the 1920s or 30s, and we've tried to show what their working lives were like. Photographs, of course, don't give much of an idea.
Photographs don't give much of an idea. Cross photographs. Now you are left with two options, okay? Now he's going to come to people in costume.
So instead, as you go round the house, you'll see volunteers dressed up as 19th century servants.
Volunteers dressed up in 19th century costumes. So people in costume. Right, just let's go back.
You'll see volunteers dressed up as 19th century servants.
Yeah, dressed up as 19th century servant means people in costume.
Going about their work.
Yeah.
They'll explain what they're doing and tell you their recipes or what tools they're using. We've just introduced this feature to replace the audio guide.
To replace the audio guide. Audio guide is not there anymore. Now they have this feature, servants, and they dressed up in that. So audio guide is even not the right answer. Got it? When you eliminate two wrong choices, you will find the right answer. Let's go on. Question number 14. What is new? Underline the word new. For new, they can use the word recent. Right? New, recent. What is new for children at Oniton Hall? Now, what is it that is new for children in Oniton Hall? Clothes for dressing up. Underline the word clothes. Mini tractors. For mini tractors, they can say small tractors that children can drive. And C, adventure playground. So they will say, for example, if they say, we already had mini tractors for children, and that was one of the prominent features. And along with that, we had clothes for dressing up. But a recent feature is this adventure playground, which, or something like that. Okay. So the question is new. They will talk about two options as old, as they already exist. And then they will talk about one option which they have recently started, or they use the word recently inaugurated. Let's see what that is.
I see there are a number of children here with you today. Well, we have several activities specially for children, like dressing up in the sorts of clothes that children wore in the past. And as it's a fine day, some of you will probably want to play in the adventure playground. Our latest addition is child-sized tractors that you can drive around the grounds.
Okay, our latest addition, child-sized tractors, mini tractors and child-sized tractors. So latest and new, they are the same words. Clear about multiple choice questions, but this is multiple choice question in part 2. When they come in part 3, they're a little more horrible, but don't worry, we'll solve them as well. Okay guys, now we are going to see how to deal with questions in IELTS listening part 2, the last 4-5 questions, and especially when the question type is matching. You have to match questions with options A, B, C, D. So you need to stay focused. You will get very nice tips for that. First of all, you have to read the question. Please follow me. Questions 15 to 20. Which activity is offered at each of the following locations on the farm? Activity and location. What are you going to match? Activity and location. So just underline the word activity and locations. Now, one thing, there are two things you can see. One is locations on the farm. Second is activities, right? Now, please tell me whether when they give you half minute to read the questions, will you read locations or will you read activities? Because in locations, there is no information. In the audio, they will talk about locations one by one. For example, you read dairy, large barn, small barn, stables. You don't get any information. But when you come to activities, when you come to shopping, shopping is an activity. Watching cows being milked. Option C, seeing old farming equipment. So you get more from there. So you need to decide. Sometimes information is in the options. Sometimes information is in the questions. So decide wisely. If the questions are the names of the books, then read options. And if options are the names of movies, names of books, then read questions. They replace them as well. Okay. Now, let's see. For shopping, they can use the word buying, purchasing, buying items. They will not use the word shopping exactly. They are going to use synonym for shopping. Option B, watching cows being milked. Very simple. They're going to use milking the cow, right? Extracting milk from the cows and all that. Option C, seeing old farming equipment. For old farming equipment, they can use the word old plows. They can use old tools, right? Old tractor, old something. Then eating and drinking, very simple. For eating, they might use the word snack, sandwich. For drinking, they might use the word tea, coffee. Okay, they will not use the word eating and drinking. Say you can go there and enjoy your favorite snack with your favorite coffee or tea or whatever. Next, starting a trip. There is a point, actually, there is a location from where you are going to start your trip. So let's see what that is. Option F, seeing rare breeds of animals. Now at which location you are going to see rare breeds. Rare breeds of animals, that means animals which are very rare. For example, we got pandas. Now pandas are very rare, just few of them are left, okay? Like that. Option G, helping to look after animals. You will help the farmer to look after the animals. You know, sometimes you wash the animals, you give them a bath or you feed them and all that. So helping to look after, anything they can say. Like you will feed the animals or you will help the farmer washing the animals and all that. Option H, using farming tools. So at what location you yourself will be allowed to use the farming tools. And what are farming tools? Again, they can be plows and they can be other stuff like that. Okay. Now, question number 15, dairy. Okay, and over there, dairy section, you might be thinking it can be about milking the cows, because in the dairy section we usually have this thing. But listen carefully, whatever they say. And answer is going to be A, B, C, D until H. Okay, you'll not write the statement. So let's make us start.
We'll also be going into the farm that's part of the estate, where there's plenty to do. Most of the buildings date from the 18th century, so you can really step back into an agricultural past. Until recently, the dairy was where milk from the cows was turned into cheese. It's now the place to go for lunch, or afternoon tea, or just a cup of coffee and a slice of homemade cake.
Okay, dairy is a place to go for lunch or a cup of tea or a slice of homemade cake. Option D. Very good. Eating and drinking. Right. Let's go on. Question number 16 is large barn. Okay, so let's see what do they do at large barn.
The big stone building that dominates the farm is the large barn. And in here is our collection of agricultural tools. These were used in the past to plough the earth, sow seeds, make gates, and much more.
Agricultural tools we used in the past. That is option C. Seeing old farming equipment. H is using farming tools. No. They use the word past. I'll play the audio again. Don't worry. I'll play it again. Okay. Correct answer is seeing old farming equipment. Now H is using farming tools, but that is not old. Okay. Please listen to it again.
The big stone building that dominates the farm is the large barn. And in here is our collection of agricultural tools. These were used in the past to plough the earth.
These were used in the past to plough the earth, agricultural tools. So seeing old farming equipment. For farming equipment, they use the word agricultural tools. And for old, they were used in the past. Exactly. C is the right answer. Let's go on. Question number 17, small barn.
There's a small barn, also made of stone, where you can groom the donkeys and horses to keep their coats clean. They really seem to enjoy having it done, and children love grooming them.
You can groom the donkeys and horses and all that. Grooming means look after animals, right? You would love to groom the donkeys, huh? Okay. All right. Question number 17. So correct answer is G, helping to look after animals. For look after, they use the word groom. Okay, groom the donkeys and all that. GROOM, groom, bride, groom. Huh? Yeah. So you can groom the donkey. वो भी बाद में donkey बन जाता है. Okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. Question number 18, stables. Okay, what animals live in stables mainly? Horses. Horses live in stables. So let's see.
The horses no longer live in the stables, which instead is the place to go to buy gifts,
Wow.
books,
Yeah.
our own jams and pickles,
Okay.
and clothes and blankets made of wool from our sheep.
Alright, stables is no more place for horses. It's a place to buy gifts and this and that and all that. So option? Now have you noticed for shopping? I play this one again. Just focus and see for shopping what other words they used.
The horses no longer live in the stables, which instead is the place to go to buy gifts, books, our own jams and pickles, and clothes and blankets made of wool from our sheep.
Okay, buy first he used, then blankets and this and that. So for question number 18, A is the right answer. Question number 19, shed. Now let's see what do they have in the shed.
Outside the shed, which is the only brick building, you can climb into a horse-drawn carriage for a lovely relaxing tour of the park and farm. The carriages are well over 100 years old.
So, E, starting a trip. Why starting a trip? Because there is a horse-drawn vehicle and you can just get on that and you can start your trip. I play this one again.
Outside the shed, which is the only brick building, you can climb into a horse-drawn carriage for a lovely relaxing tour of...
For a lovely relaxing tour. So you can get on the horse-drawn carriage. It means it's starting a trip. For trip they use the word tour. Absolutely. So for question number 19, E is the right answer. Question number 20, parkland. Let's see, what do they say about parkland?
And finally, the parkland, which was laid out in the 18th century with a lake and trees that are now well established. You'll see types of cattle and sheep that are hardly ever found on farms these days. We're helping to preserve them, to stop their numbers falling further.
Okay, you will find cattle and sheep that are hardly found in the farm. Means seeing rare breeds. Now for rare breeds, they use the word cattle and sheep that are hardly found. So F is the right answer. Okay, so this is the best way to deal with matching. And as you practice, you will become perfect. Then you will realize how they paraphrase the options and how to find the right one. Thank you. Okay, let's make a start. We've got listening part 3 and questions 21 to 30. Okay, let's see. We've got questions 21 and 22 and they are called double multiple choice questions. Double multiple choice questions may appear in any part of IELTS but mainly in part 2 and part 3. Okay, they are hardly found in part 1 and part 4. In double multiple choice questions, out of 5 options, you have to select 2 options. They are like multiple choice questions. So let's see. First, the question statement. Which 2 things do the students agree? Underline the word students agree. They need to include, underline need to include in their reviews. And review of what? Review of Romeo and Juliet. Now listen. 2 things they agree. Those 2 things they agree will be your answer. And other 3 things where they will not agree, that will not be your answer. What you have to do, you have to separate 2 items from 5 items and 2 items where they agree. And usually when people agree, they say, oh yes, I agree. Or yes, you are right. All right, let's do it. Or let's follow your plan. Or yes, I think you are right. Anything like that. So you'll understand that they agree. And if they disagree, they say, I'll instead go for something else. I'd rather do another thing. Or I don't think we should do that. Or I don't agree. So over here, now you got to check. And what are the things? Analysis of text. So actually it is text analysis. Option A is text analysis. Option B, summary of the plot. So it is actually plot summary. Got it? See what are they doing? They are adding extra word. A summary of the plot. 3 extra words. A and of and the. Option C, description of theater. It's theater description. Option D, personal reaction. And optional E, reference to particular scenes. Got it? Now, where do they agree? What are they going to add in the review of Romeo and Juliet? It can be a movie, it can be a novel. Romeo and Juliet is a movie and a novel. So they are going to write a review. And in that review, out of 5 things, they are going to add 2 things. And they agree to include these 2 things. Let's see. I'm playing the audio for questions 21 and 22 together.
Part 3. You will hear 2 theatre studies students discussing stage and screen performances of Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet.
Did you make notes while you were watching the performances of Romeo and Juliet, Gemma?
Yes, I did. I found it quite hard, though. I kept getting too involved in the play.
Me too. I ended up not taking notes. I wrote down my impressions when I got home. Do you mind if I check a few things with you, in case I've missed anything? And I've also got some questions about our assignment.
No, it's good to talk things through. I may have missed things too.
Okay, great. So, first of all, I'm not sure how much information we should include in our reviews.
Right. Well, I don't think we need to describe what happens, especially as Romeo and Juliet is one of Shakespeare's most well-known plays.
Yeah, everyone knows the story. In an essay, we'd focus on the poetry and Shakespeare's use of imagery, etc. But that isn't really relevant in a review. We're supposed to focus on how effective this particular production is.
We should say what made it a success or a failure.
And part of that means talking about the emotional impact the performance had on us. I think that's important.
Yes. And we should definitely mention how well the director handled important bits of the play, like when Romeo climbs onto Juliet's balcony.
And the fight between Mercutio and Tybalt.
Yes. It would also be interesting to mention the theatre space and how the director used it, but I don't think we'll have space in 800 words.
No, okay. That all sounds quite straightforward.
Audio is finished. Sorry? Okay, correct answer. How many of you think A? No. B. All right. Summary of the plot. About that, they said people already know that. We don't need to. People know about Romeo and Juliet, so this is not the right answer. Description of the theater. For that, she said we don't have enough space. I'll play the audio again, don't worry. So the correct answer is D, personal reaction. For that, they use the word emotions and all that, how we felt. And option E, reference to particular scenes. So option D for doctor and option E for elephant, they are correct answers. I'm playing this one again. Please listen.
Part 3. You will hear 2 theatre studies students discussing stage and screen performances of Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet.
Did you make notes while you were watching the performances of Romeo and Juliet, Gemma?
Yes, I did. I found it quite hard, though. I kept getting too involved in the play.
Me too. I ended up not taking notes. I wrote down my impressions when I got home. Do you mind if I check a few things with you, in case I've missed anything? And I've also got some questions about our assignment.
No, it's good to talk things through. I may have missed things too.
Okay, great. So, first of all, I'm not sure how much information we should include in our reviews.
Right. Well, I don't think we need to describe what happens.
I don't think we need to describe what happens. Summary of the plot. What happens, that is the summary of the plot.
Especially as Romeo and Juliet is one of Shakespeare's most well-known plays.
Yeah,
Okay, so B is wrong. Now please come to option D. D for doctor.
Everyone knows the story. In an essay, we'd focus on the poetry and Shakespeare's use of imagery, etc. But that isn't really relevant in a review.
That isn't relevant. They do poetry and review that isn't relevant. So they talked about option A, analysis of the text, right? Now, let's go on.
We're supposed to focus on how effective this particular production is.
We should say what made it a success or a failure.
And part of that means talking about the emotional impact the performance had on us.
Emotional impact the performance has on us. That is personal reaction. Emotional impact on us means personal reaction. That is first correct answer.
I think that's important.
Yes, and we should definitely mention how well the director handled important bits of the play.
Important bits of the play. That means particular scenes. How well the director handled important bits of the play. That means reference to particular scenes. So option D and E. You can write them anyways. 21D, 22E. Or you can write 21E, 22D. Both ways it's right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, in IELTS listening part 3, we often have matching type of questions. So now we are going to see how to deal with these matching type of questions. Okay, this time you see questions are aspects of the production. I'm reading the question first. Questions 23 to 27. Which opinion do the speakers give about each of the following aspects of the Emporium's production of Romeo and Juliet? So aspects of production and their opinion. You got to match opinion with aspects of production. Now, aspects of production, they are the set. You know, just imagine there is the drama, the set of the drama. 24, lighting. 25, costume. Now, by the way, are you getting any information? No. So the half minute they give you, don't read the questions. Instead of that, you will read opinions. So please come to opinions. They both expected this to be more traditional. They both means the students who are discussing it. So they are using they both, they agree, they, all that. They both expected this to be more traditional. Underline to be more traditional. Now for traditional, they can use the word conventional. Conventional. Option B, they both thought this was original. So both thought this was original. Option C, they agree. This created the right atmosphere. They agree, created right atmosphere. Option D, they agree this was a major strength. Agree and major strength of the play or major strength of the production, aspects of the this production. Option E, they were both disappointed by this. Now something, for example, set. They said set was so pathetic. And other one says, oh yes, you are right. I was quite disappointed looking at the set. So lighting, they say lighting was very bad. Right? So they were both disappointed. Option F, they disagree about why this was an issue. They disagree why this was an issue. There was an issue and they disagree on the reason. Why means they disagree with the reason. One says the reason was this, the other says, no, I don't think so. There was another reason for that. So when they disagree on the reason, this option goes there. Option G, they disagree about how this could be improved. Their disagreement on the method or manner. How means method or manner, how something is done. So they disagree on the method, how this could be improved. Now first thing is set. I play the audio, listen, and then from A to G, you are going to decide the right answer.
So, what about the Emporium Theatre's production of the play?
I thought some things worked really well, but there were some problems too.
Yeah. What about the set, for example?
I think it was visually really stunning. I'd say that was probably the most memorable thing about this production.
You're right. The set design was really amazing. But actually, I have seen similar ideas used in other productions.
So set design was amazing. It was something like that. Option D for doctor. They agree this was a major strength. I play it again, don't worry. Just match this sentence. They agree this was a major strength with what they say.
So, what about the Emporium Theatre's production of the play?
I thought some things worked really well, but there were some problems too.
Yeah. What about the set, for example?
I think it was visually really stunning. I'd say that was probably the most memorable thing about this production.
Yup.
I'd say that was the most memorable thing about this production, means their major strength. And the other person says,
Right.
Right.
The set design was really amazing.
the set
But
design was
actually,
really
I have seen
amazing.
similar ideas used
So-
in other productions.
They agree this was a major strength. Got it? Let's go on. Question number 24, lighting. Let's see what do they say about lighting.
What about the lighting? Some of the scenes were so dimly lit it was quite hard to see.
I didn't dislike it. It helped to change the mood of the quieter scenes.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. Option F is they disagreed about why this was an issue. C is they agree this created the right atmosphere. I play it again for you. Listen.
What about the lighting? Some of the scenes were so dimly lit it was quite hard to see.
I didn't dislike it. It helped to change the mood of the quieter scenes.
That's
It
a good
helped
point.
to change the mood of the quieter scenes. So that is, they agree this created the right atmosphere. Right atmosphere means mood of quieter scenes. Like it's a romantic one, so the mood of romantic scenes and all that. Okay, dim light. Question number 25, costume design. Now, what do they say about costume design?
What did you think of the costumes?
I was a bit surprised by the contemporary dress, I must say.
Yeah, I think it worked well, but I'd assumed it would be more conventional.
Me too.
Me too. More conventional. Me too. A. They both expected this to be more traditional. For more traditional, they use the word conventional. Listen to it again.
What did you think of the costumes?
I was a bit surprised by the contemporary dress, I must say.
Yeah, I think it worked well, but I'd assumed it would be more conventional.
Me too.
Okay? Right. They use the word contemporary dress. Contemporary dress is the dress you guys are wearing of this time. Okay? Let's go on. Next is music. So what do they say about music?
I liked the music at the beginning, and I thought the musicians were brilliant. But I thought they were wasted because the music didn't have much impact in Acts 2 and 3.
Yes, that was a shame.
That was a shame. Music was a shame. Okay, you are just guessing. All right, I want you to listen to it again.
I liked the music at the beginning, and I thought the musicians were brilliant. But I thought they were wasted because the music didn't have much impact in Acts 2 and 3.
Yes, that was a shame.
It's actually option E. They were both disappointed by this. Initially it was good and they were wasted, one disappointment, and others said that was a shame. So they were both disappointed. E is the right answer. Question number 27, actors' delivery. How they delivered the dialogues and all that.
One problem with this production was that the actors didn't deliver the lines that well. They were speaking too fast.
It was a problem, I agree. But I thought it was because they weren't speaking loudly enough, especially at key points in the play.
I actually didn't have a problem with that.
Now they had different problems. It's option F, they disagree about why this was an issue. What was the issue? They did not deliver their dialogues properly. One said they were speaking loudly, that's why. So they disagreed about why this was an issue. Please listen to it again.
One problem with this production was that the actors didn't deliver the lines that well. They were speaking too fast.
It was a problem, I agree. But I thought it was because they weren't speaking loudly enough, especially at key points in the play.
I actually didn't have a problem with that.
I didn't have a problem with loud speaking, and she said they were speaking very fast. So correct answer for 27 is F. They disagree about this. Now listen, initially when you go through IELTS listening test, such type of questions can be a headache, can be something confusing, or the worst situation is they fly over your head. But doing it again and again, understanding these concepts, two things you need to understand. First thing is language given in the question booklet. And the second most important thing is the rewording, the similar language they use in the audio. Once you identify that for this word in the audio, they may use that word. For this sentence in the audio, they may use that sentence, then you will be fine. And let me tell you, these concepts, words, phrases, and ideas are regularly repeated. Once you solve test after test after test after test, you will realize this thing I heard somewhere. For example, when I do IELTS reading tests on my own or listening tests on my own, then I understand I've been through this thing in another test, so then it's going to be fine. And remember, there is the principle of life. Repetition is the mother of learning. You do one test. Now, for example, you did multiple choice once, it flew over your head. Second time, you will understand one or two questions. Third time, more. Fourth time, more. Repetition is the mother of learning. Now, that repetition doesn't mean repeat the same test. You repeat another test, another test, another test, and you'll be fine with it. Just repeat the same type of questions, and you're going to be all right with that. Okay? Thank you. All right. Now we go on with IELTS listening part 3 and multiple choice questions. Multiple choice questions are most important for listening part 3. Sometimes there can be 10 out of 10 questions multiple choice. Listening part 3, questions 21 to 30, all multiple choice. Otherwise, 5 to 6 multiple choice questions and 3 to 4 matching type of questions. Right? So, multiple choice questions are the most important part of IELTS listening part 3. Now, let's take a start here. Again, we've got two parts of multiple choice questions, and this is single multiple choice, A, B, C. You got to select one option. The students think the story of Romeo and Juliet is still relevant for young people today because why is the story of Romeo and Juliet relevant to young people? Reason. They've written because. Because means reason. Now, out of 3, they will talk about 2 things as they are not the reason. They will term them, they will talk about them as not the reason for that. And out of 3, 1 item is going to be the reason. Option A illustrates how easily conflict can start. So, how easily conflict can start. So, if it is still relevant among young people because how easily conflict can start, then A is the option. Option B, it deals with problems that families experience. Underline problems that families experience. So because of family problems, if they are still relevant, if they say in the past people used to have family issues as we have now, then it can be option B. And option C teaches them about relationships. So teaches about relationships, mainly the love relationships in Romeo and Juliet. So let's make this start.
It's been an interesting experience watching different versions of Romeo and Juliet, hasn't it?
Definitely. It's made me realise how relevant the play still is.
Right. I mean, a lot's changed since Shakespeare's time, but in many ways, nothing's changed. There are always disagreements and tension between teenagers and their parents.
Yes, that's something all young people can relate to. More than the violence and the extreme emotions in the play.
All right, more than the violence and extreme emotions. So that is conflict. Easily conflict can start. No, it isn't that. I give you another chance. Please focus.
It's been an interesting experience watching different versions of Romeo and Juliet, hasn't it?
Definitely. It's made me realise how relevant the play still is.
Right. I mean, a lot's changed since Shakespeare's time, but in many ways, nothing's changed. There are always disagreements and tension between teenagers and their parents.
There are always problems, teenagers and their parents. So that is problems that families experience. Option B. Please listen again.
It's been an interesting experience watching different versions of Romeo and Juliet, hasn't it?
Definitely. It's made me realise how relevant the play still is.
Right. I mean, a lot's changed since Shakespeare's time, but in many ways, nothing's changed. There are always disagreements and tension between teenagers and their parents.
Yes, That's something all young people can relate to, more than the violence and the extreme emotions in the play.
Yeah, more than the violence and extreme emotions. So option A is about conflict. That can be violence. And extreme emotions can be relationship. So more than that, right? So option A and C, they are wrong. Correct answer is option B. Question number 29. Students found watching Romeo and Juliet in another language. For example, they watched it in French. So when they watched it in another language, how did they find it? Frustrating, demanding, or moving? Moving is wow. This movie moved me. What a moving argument or what a moving statement. So they found it in another language frustrating, demanding, or moving.
How did you find watching it in translation?
Really interesting. I expected to find it more challenging, but I could follow the story pretty well.
I stopped worrying about not being able to understand all the words and focused on the actors' expressions. The ending's pretty powerful.
Yes, that somehow intensified the emotion for me.
That intensified the emotion. Ending is powerful. Option C. For demanding, they use the word challenging. She said, I thought. Whenever they use the word I thought, I considered, I expected. So after that, they usually give the wrong answer. Correct answer is C, and that is moving. Listen again.
How did you find watching it in translation?
Really interesting. I expected to find it more challenging, but I could follow the story pretty well.
I stopped worrying about not being able to understand all the words and focused on the actors' expressions. The ending's pretty powerful.
Yes, that
Okay.
somehow intensified the
So-
emotion for me.
Yeah, not frustrating because he stopped worrying about what they are speaking. He focused their emotions and all that. Question number 30. Why do students think Shakespeare's plays have such international appeal? Now again, why means reason. Shakespeare's plays have international appeal. International appeal means all over the world people like them, right? Option A, stories are exciting. So is that the reason that the stories are exciting? That's why globally people like Shakespeare's plays. Option B, recognizable characters, that these characters are found in our society as well. You know, you watch that Arthurul, there was one guy who was cheating his whole clan. So that was like, we find these type of people in our society as well. So that is recognizable characters. And option C, interpreted in many ways. Shakespeare's plays can be interpreted in many ways. You can take out many meanings from here. From the drama, you can take out many meanings. So let's see. Why do the students think Shakespeare's plays have international appeal?
Did you know Shakespeare's been translated into more languages than any other writer?
What's the reason for his international appeal, do you think?
I was reading that it's because his plays are about basic themes that people everywhere are familiar with.
Yeah, and they can also be understood on different levels. The characters have such depth.
Right, which allows directors to experiment and find new angles.
That's really important.
All right, C. They can be interpreted in many ways. Focus this again.
Did you know Shakespeare's been translated into more languages than any other writer?
What's the reason for his international appeal, do you think?
I was reading that it's because his plays are about basic themes that people everywhere are familiar with.
Yeah,
Basic themes people are familiar with.
and they can also be understood on different levels.
They can also be understood on different levels. Interpreted in many ways, understood on different levels. So it's that. C is the right answer, okay? All right. All right, now we've got part 4 IELTS listening. Remember one thing, whatever you miss in part 3, you get a chance to get it in part 4. Sometimes part 3 can be very confusing, multiple choice questions, matching questions, they can fly over your head if you don't practice. If you practice, you will understand everything. So part 4 gives you another opportunity to get it all back. In part 4, they will always give you a lecture. It's a part of a lecture, like 5 minutes part of a lecture. There is only one speaker in part 4. there is only one person who is going to talk, who is going to deliver a lecture. As it is one person talking, as it is a lecture, so sometimes audio can be very fluent. Now, fluent does not mean audio is going to be fast. Fluent means it's going to go on in a certain rhythm without any break. Another problem in part 4 is that they will give you almost 1 minute to read questions 31 to 40. In the middle, there is no extra time. And audio will start and go on. So the first important thing is to track the audio. If audio is on question number 31 and you are on question number 31, you will find the answer. And then you need to move on and on and on. I'll tell you all these things, okay? Now, for part 4, there is another important thing. We call it signpost language. Whenever lecture is delivered, the speakers speak like, first of all, moreover, additionally, for example, finally. So these words will tell you where the speakers have reached, and further I tell you more about it. Now, let's see the title, Impact of Digital Technology on Icelandic Language. Very simple, Impact of Technology on Icelandic Language. Now, if you don't know what is Icelandic language, don't worry, it's a language, right? Just impact of technology on Urdu, impact of technology on Hindi, Pashto, Bengali, Nepali, and all that. Simple, okay? Then they've mentioned there are 4 parts of it. You can see there are 4 headings. Part 1 is Icelandic language. Has approximately dash speakers. Very, very simple. Answer is number of speakers. And obviously this number can be 500, 5,000, 5 million. So you should be familiar with the numbers and you should be able to write numbers. For example, if you have got to write 10,000, right? And if you write TEN 10, THOUSAND 1000, they are 2 words. They are 2 words. So if you write 10,000,000, it is 1 number. So it's better to write numbers in digits than words. So let's see how many. For approximately, they can use the word about, around, almost, more or less, and then there's a number. So let's see.
Part 4. You will hear a lecturer on a languages course talking about the impact of digital technology on Icelandic, the native language of Iceland.
Right, everyone, let's make a start. Over the past few sessions, we've been considering the reasons why some world languages are in decline. And today I'm going to introduce another factor that affects languages and the speakers of those languages, and that's technology, and in particular, digital technology. In order to illustrate its effect, I'm going to focus on the Icelandic language, which is spoken by around 321,000 people, most of whom live in Iceland, an island in the North Atlantic Ocean.
Which is spoken by around 321,000 people. So how will you write 321,000? 321,000 means 3,21,000. 321,000. So the best approach is 321 and 000. Otherwise, you can write 321 and 1000. THOUSAND. That is also correct. Okay, but try to write numbers in digits. So 321,000. Okay, but don't write THREEHUNDRED and that's going to be wrong answer. Okay, all right. Has a. Now listen. Has. Where does this word go to? Has a. What has a? No, Icelandic language. Got it? The first point is Icelandic language has approximately 321,000 speakers. Now they say again has a dash that is still growing. So it means Icelandic language has something that is still growing. You should be very, very clear. If you're not clear where the has is going to, you will never find the answer. So actually, Icelandic language has something that is still growing. For still growing, they can say they are adding new something to it. Right? So let's see.
The problem for this language is not the number of speakers, even though this number is small, nor is it about losing words to other languages, such as English. In fact,
The vocabulary of Icelandic is continually increasing because when speakers need a new word for something, they tend to create one rather than borrowing from another language.
All right. Vocabulary is continually increasing. So still growing and continually increasing. Answer is vocabulary. Now by chance if you write vocab, V-O-C-A-B, that is wrong. Okay, that's not proper word. Proper word is vocabulary. So correct answer for 32 is vocabulary. And for still growing, they use the word continually increasing. Okay, next bullet point is without a question. So when they give you 1 minute to read the question, don't read the bullet points which are without question. Over here, just underline the word 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, they will come to the next option. Has its own words for computer-based concepts. Now, what has its own words? Icelandic language. Icelandic language has its own words for computer-based concept such as web browser and dash. Now, web browser is a computer-based concept. So, for example, such as web browser and website, web browser and something related to computer. Now, it's going to be computer word.
All this makes Icelandic quite a special language. It's changed very little in the past millennium, yet it can handle 21st century concepts related to the use of computers and digital technology. Take, for example, the word for web browser. This is vafri in Icelandic, which comes from the verb to wander. I can't think of a more appropriate term because that's exactly what you do mentally when you browse the internet. Then there's an Icelandic word for podcast, which is too hard to pronounce, and so on.
Then there is an Icelandic word for podcast. And podcast, how many words? One word, P-O-D-C-A-S-T, podcast. Got it? For web browser, they told the word. And another word for podcast, which is hard to pronounce. So podcast is the right answer. Okay, next we've got young speakers. So they're going to talk about Icelandic speakers, young speakers. Question number 34. Young speakers are big users. Got it now? Now whatever they are saying, that will go with young speakers. Young speakers are big users of digital technology such as, answer is a digital technology. It can be laptop, it can be tablet, it can be mobile, it can be anything like that. Got it? So for such as they might use for example, or like, so let's see.
Icelandic then is alive and growing, and it's a big but, young Icelanders spend a great deal of time in the digital world, and this world is predominantly English. Think about smartphones. They didn't even exist until comparatively recently, but today young people use them all the time to read books, watch TV or films, play games, listen to music and so on.
Young people use them, and before them they said smartphones. Now only phones will be the wrong answer. That may refer to old styled phone. Correct answer is smartphone. Listen to it again.
Icelandic then is alive and growing, and it's a big but, young Icelanders spend a great deal of time in the digital world, and this world is predominantly English. Think about smartphones.
Yeah.
They didn't even exist until comparatively recently, but today young people use them all the time to read books, watch TV or films, play games, listen to music and so on.
All right. Now, question number 35. Young speakers are becoming dash very quickly. Now, young speakers are becoming something very quickly. What is it that they are becoming?
Obviously, this is a good thing in many respects because it promotes their bilingual skills. But the extent of the influence of English in the virtual world is staggering, and it's all happening really fast.
So what is happening really fast? They are becoming... You missed it. Listen again.
Obviously, this is a good thing in many respects because it promotes their bilingual skills.
It promotes their bilingual skills. So when it is promoting their bilingual skills, it means they are becoming bilingual. And for very quickly?
But the extent of the influence of English in the virtual world is staggering, And it's all happening really fast.
It's all happening really fast. Very quickly. It's all happening really fast. So what is happening really fast? They are becoming bilingual. Huh? By, how do you write by? B-Y by? B-I, by. Lingual. L-I-N-G-U-A-L. Yeah, by. You write bilingual with B-Y by Satyanas. Okay? Correct answer wrong. Okay, question number 36. Young speakers are having discussions using only English while they are in the dash at school, part of a school, while they are in the classroom at school, while they are in the library at school, while they are, it means it's the part of a school. Okay, let's see.
For their parents and grandparents, the change is less concerning because they already have their native speaker skills in Icelandic. But for young speakers, well, the outcome is a little troubling. For example, teachers have found that playground conversations in Icelandic secondary schools can be conducted entirely in English.
Playground conversations can be conducted entirely in English. Playground conversation. Playground is the part of school. So are having discussions using only English while they are in the playground. Listen again.
For their parents and grandparents, the change is less concerning because they already have their native speaker skills in Icelandic. But for young speakers, well, the outcome is a little troubling. For example, teachers have found that playground conversations in Icelandic secondary schools can be conducted entirely in English.
Okay, playground conversations in Icelandic schools are conducted in English. Question number 37. Young speakers are better able to identify the content of a dash in English. Content of something in English. For example, content of a book in English. Content of a movie in English. Content of a novel in English. Okay, so let's see.
While teachers of much younger children have reported situations where their classes find it easier to say what is in a picture using English rather than Icelandic,
What
the
is
very real and
in
worrying
a
consequence of all
picture using English? So content of a picture. For content they use the word what is in a picture. Content of a picture, what is in a picture. This is the similarity they have. So the correct answer is picture. Okay. IELTS listening part 4. So I'm going to solve these 3 questions for you and I'll tell you how to master IELTS listening part 4. The title is Technology and Internet Companies. We have internet companies in our country, technology companies and all that. So question number 38. Write very little. Now who write very little? Technology and internet companies write very little in Icelandic because of the small number of speakers and because of how complicated it's. Now where does this word it's go to? Then you will find the answer. Yes, this word goes to Icelandic language. Got it? Yeah, unless you understand these things, you will never find the answer. Again, focus. Technology and internet companies write very little in Icelandic language because of the small number of speakers and because of how complicated Icelandic dash is. Now, how complicated Icelandic pronunciation is, Icelandic vocabulary is, Icelandic sentence is, and all that. Answer is going to be singular.
Of course, this is happening to other European languages too. But while internet companies might be willing to offer, say, French options in their systems, it's much harder for them to justify the expense of doing the same for a language that has a population the size of a French town, such as Nice. The other drawback of Icelandic is the grammar, which is significantly more complex than in most languages. At the moment, the tech giants are simply not interested in tackling this.
Another drawback is grammar. How do you spell grammar, Umair? Aye, hi. ER से correct answer wrong. AR. Okay, कहेंगे पिछले साल तो ER से ही होता था. Math की change हो गया, okay? GRAMMAR. So see how these mistakes, he found the answer, but because of wrong spelling, his answer is going to be wrong. Okay? Alright, let's go on. The last thing is Icelandic government. Now, what does Icelandic government say? First two bullet points are without question. Second bullet point has secure future. Underline secure future. You don't need to read it all. Don't waste your time by reading it all. Just underline secure future. Now we read question number 39. So, Icelandic government is worried. See that? Will not read it is worried. Will not understand. Government is worried that young Icelanders may lose their dash. May lose their dash. Young Icelanders will lose something. They are going to lose something as Icelanders. Now let's see what is it that they're going to lose.
So, what is the Icelandic government doing about this? Well, large sums of money are being allocated to a language technology fund that it is hoped will lead to the development of Icelandic-sourced apps and other social media and digital systems. But clearly this is going to be an uphill struggle. On the positive side, they know that Icelandic is still the official language of education and government. It has survived for well over 1,000 years, and the experts predict that its future in this nation-state is sound and will continue to be so. However, there's no doubt that it's becoming an inevitable second choice in young people's lives. This raises important questions. When you consider how much of the past is tied up in a language, will young Icelanders lose their sense of their own identity?
Yeah, will new Icelanders be able to do their own identity? So the answer is, may lose their identity. Okay? I play this last part again.
So, what is the and government?
Last part.
It has survived for well over 1,000 years, and the experts predict that its future in this nation-state is sound and will continue to be so. However, there's no doubt that it's becoming an inevitable second choice in young people's lives. This raises important questions. When you consider how much of the past is tied up in a language, will young Icelanders lose their sense of their own identity?
Alright, identity. Last question. Government is worried about the consequences of children not being dash. Now, children not being. Something that children don't have. Children not being. Just focus not being. In either Icelandic or English. So,
another issue that concerns the government of Iceland is this. If children are learning two languages through different routes, neither of which they are fully fluent in, will they be able to express themselves properly?
children not being fluent. Exactly. Listen again.
Another issue that concerns the government of Iceland is this. If children are learning two languages through different routes, neither of which they are fully fluent in, will they be able to express themselves properly?
Yeah, neither of them they are fluent in. So children not being fluent, right? Okay.